Hi, it's Linda with No Frills ASMR. So I just made a video about the movie Godzilla minus one. And I was like, I don't want to spoil it, but I can't talk about it without spoiling it. We got to talk about this movie, you guys. All right, so I'm assuming everybody who is watching has seen it. It's so good. Right? Okay, minus one. Yeah, so I read a quote from the director Takashi Yamazaki, and he said that post-war Japan, that is a zero, and then Godzilla arrives, making the situation even worse and more tragic, and that's why it's minus one. See, I wasn't sure if they were using minus one to mean like a prequel, and then they were going to do a Godzilla, or if they meant it like they killed one. But as we know at the end, it looks like it was self-healing. Oh my gosh. All right, so this movie, I mean, don't you guys agree? It's a monster movie, but it's really a war movie. Like one of those historical war movies with all the drama and emotion of post-war. It's like this Godzilla's no you know how the old Godzilla would fight Mothra and he seemed to sometimes be nice. This Godzilla is not anything but pure evil. He just is going after it. He doesn't seem hungry. He's not eating people. He just goes after people just to kill them. And I thought that was pretty good. So at the beginning, the first scene, I love it that it starts right away with Godzilla instead of having to wait around for this monster to show up. And he's cool looking. But that first scene, it's sort of like reminiscent of the Jurassic Park Tyrannosaurus Rex from the original, where he grabs people and. But I thought that scene was a great way to start the movie, and it sets up the whole character as the kamikaze who didn't want to sacrifice his life for a lost war. Basically, the war was already pretty much lost. And so he pulls in and says his plane has issues, which it doesn't. But then when he has the chance to kill, or seemingly kill Godzilla, he freezes and can't do it, which was interesting. So then when he goes back home, he's, meets the girl who was like real, go, go, go kind of girl with the baby. But she kind of changes in the film, and that would be my one, I mean, she still went to work outside of the city because she wanted to make her own money. But I feel like her character kind of changed quite a bit. I'm not sure about that part. That was the only thing. I was like, But, so then he goes and he gets the job out on the boat looking for the mines. And that felt to me a lot like a Jaws moment. So I did feel like this movie had seen, obviously, all the classic, Hollywood blockbuster type movies, and had kind of pulled from those, but made it all its own. And I thought that was cool. I really liked that. And at the end, when all the tugboats come, that was Dunkirk for sure, right? I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, so the Godzilla character is really just, I think all the time these monster characters have always been the anxiety about nuclear destruction. So it was, oh my God. And when Godzilla comes up and then you see the blue, that was cool. How did they do it in black and white? Do they leave the blue showing? I was so curious. I'm like, I kind of want to see this in black and white now. And And those effects, all throughout the effects, were awesome. When Godzilla comes out of the water and is swimming, that looks so good. Usually CGI screws that like water line up. It just never looks right, but that looked great. And then when the town, when Godzilla blows nuclear all over the town, and the girl pushes him and then she gets swept away. That looked really great too, I thought. But let's see, and then what happens? I'm not doing a very good job of this. Hold on, I may have to start over. I'm losing track of my thoughts. Oh, so then they decide they're going to go get Godzilla. And the scientist comes up with the plan. And by the way, I kind of love this plan. And while I'm watching it, I'm like, this is a plan. Like, it felt very, I don't know if this is like not okay to say, but it felt like sort of Japanese to me in that it was such a kind of scientific way of looking at it and trying to think outside of, because they'd already tried putting bullets into the thing and it would just self-heal. But anyway, so his plan was for these boats to go out. That's a boat, guys. And then put this thing around him and it would have bubbles. And then Godzilla, oh my God, that's my Godzilla. What? And then Godzilla would get bubbles all around him. And I love it that all the men are like, he'll float. Because none of us know science. But the science says, no. That'll make him sink to the bottom. So then they thought sinking him to the bottom would create enough pressure to kill him. But if that didn't work, then phase 2 was they put the bubble raft under him. This part sounds silly. And then it would raise him up very quickly. And he would get the bends, basically. What? I love it. That's crazy, but so clear. And it's probably the first time with any kind of movie like this where I actually understood. You know how sometimes they kind of have this whole plot and you're like, I don't even know what they're doing right now. They're just running around doing so. I don't know what's happening. This one, it was so clear. I knew exactly what the plan was. I kind of knew it wouldn't work because we've got the guy in the jet fighter and you kind of knew he had to be the hero in the end, right? That's a jet fighter, guys. And here's our dude. It doesn't look like a plane, but okay. And so anyway, and then all the guys come out and somehow they cooked up all the tugboats. I don't know how that happened and I don't really care. And then they helped pull him up from the bottom. And I did like it that he at least looked like he had been hurt by that. It wasn't like the scientist was totally wrong. It was just that he started to get his like nuclear power back while he was still coming up. But I think he looked like his skin was beat up and it wasn't like it didn't work at all. It just, there were issues with it. And it was all planned within like, 4 days or something. I'm taking this seriously like it's a real thing. But anyway, and then he comes up and when he goes, this guy comes in. And I don't know if you guys, like for me, I knew all the plot points before they happened. Like it wasn't unpredictable to me. Like you hear when the mechanic guy that he brought in explains to him, about his plane. They, right before they cut scenes, he says, and one more thing. And I said, oh, he put a, what do you call it? Not a jump seat, but a emergency propulsion. What's the word? Anyway, and they had talked about that in a preview when they were all planning this thing. They had talked about how their government could have put those in to the kamikaze fighter planes, but they didn't because they were too cheap or something. Boy, and that was interesting how much it was about, the government didn't really care about the regular guy. They were just using them as pawns in this war. And this is a moment for the regular guy to stand up for their country. And I just was like, that's cool. So anyway, and I did also think when she disappeared, but they never found her body, because I've watched soap operas, I know that if you don't find the body, they're coming back. So that wasn't a surprise to me either. And there was another thing. Oh, when the kid wasn't allowed to go out, I knew he'd be showing up. I was like, I don't know, one way or another, he's showing up to help out, and he did. But that's fine. It's like all that, it doesn't matter, because it's like you're getting what you want from the movie, and it makes you go, yeah. Anyway, yeah, I thought it was interesting how, like, even the guys who work for the government, like, afterwards, they're like, you don't need to be here and fight this. You've already been through the war, and we don't expect that of you. And some guys left because they had families, but some of them stayed because they wanted to save the country. But it was really about, like, the government not valuing the life of the individual, and yet these guys were willing to give their life for country. I thought that was pretty good. I thought it was interesting. So I don't know, I'm trying to think. So let's talk about the very end of the movie. So first of all, did you guys notice, because I had to actually rewind it and replay it because my husband didn't even see it, but the last scene, well, the second to last scene, I guess, he goes to the hospital and he sees, the girl whose name I can't think of. And normally endings like that with, like, American movies, when it's like, oh, she's fine, I kind of go, oh, come on. But I actually kind of liked it in this movie that she was still alive. I was like, yay. But right at the end, he goes into the hospital and he's hugging her, and she kind of leans her neck over to hug him. This is her mouth, and whoops, that's her chin, and here's her hair, and I think she had it, like, in a ponytail maybe, and then she has the hospital gown, and all of a sudden something starts to show up right here. And I thought that was, like, from the nuclear atmosphere, whatever you want to call it, nuclear waste, or not waste, what's it called? Just being exposed to nuclear. I thought it was showing that, like, how even after the war, a lot of the Japanese people suffered for a whole, generation from the nuclear fallout. So I thought maybe that's what it was showing. But then I actually looked it up. And I guess the director said it was cells of Godzilla. I don't know. But I feel like that's leaving it open to her being a bigger character in a future Godzilla movie, which I think would be cool. And then also they show Godzilla, sinking, and he starts going bloop, bloop, and, like, regenerating. So that's interesting. To be honest, I'm not sure how I feel about that part, because as much as I like the movie, I don't know. Sometimes the fact that we keep making more and more of every movie, it's like, do we need that, or did we just need this movie to be like everything it is? I don't know. Although if they can do another one and make it really good, and I don't know, maybe it'll be good. I did like the way in this movie everything was very clearly explained, and their motivations all made sense to me. There was never a time where I was like, oh, like, he's gonna do that, come on, I felt like everybody's motivation was there. Yeah, I think it's a good one. A real good one. Very exciting. Yeah, and the fact that Godzilla was just, he was just evil. Because sometimes they try to make these monsters like they like a certain person, or this guy was nothing but just wanted to take out giant ships. And I also liked it that they had all the deep sea fish float to the top. It was like your sign that he was coming. It's almost like in Jaws, the da-dum, da-dum. Theirs was like you start seeing these deep sea fish pop up. I don't know what else, you guys. What else do you think about this movie? I'm trying to think. I know I'm like going all over the place. I'm not very good at doing like a linear thought on things. My mind goes. Yeah, I'm so curious about her neck and what was going on. Let's see if I can draw Godzilla. All right, well, I can't think of anything else about it, I don't think. Just go watch it. It's on, if you haven't seen it, which I hope you have before you watch this. Oh, he had big claws. That looks just like him. Oh, and that scene when, oh my God, when after the city exploded and she pushed him and saved his life, like he has so much survivor guilt already, and then that happened. Oh my God. And then he is screaming, and that black rain starts falling on him, which I guess happens after a nuclear, attack. That was a good scene too. Boy, it was a good one. Okay. I can't think anything else. If I do, I'll say so, but otherwise I'll just finish drawing